Hello and welcome to Newsmakers for this Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. I'm Louie Butko and thank you for joining me. My guest today, no stranger to CHCH podcasts or the airwaves of Hamilton, a longtime journalist, host, and reporter in the city. Please welcome my friend Rick Zamperin to the show. Rick, how are you?
Louie, I am fantastic. Thanks for having me on. Bubba's been stealing me all these weeks and months.
I'm surprised you didn't automatically go to the set across the hall just out of muscle memory there. Yeah. But great to have you on. And, we kid a little bit, about, I don't want to step on anyone's toes here talking about sports.
Right.
But I just happen to be in Vancouver. I am now a Football Reporters of Canada member.
Nice.
You are my chapter president, so Your Honor, thank you for having me, or thank you for coming on. Let's talk about the Grey Cup, though, because it wasn't a great game, to be honest, if you're a Bombers fan or just a general CFL fan. And I thought it was Scott Radley had a really interesting piece in the paper yesterday, and I thought it was pretty telling. In the 25 years, and I know you tweeted this as well, in the 25 years that the Ticats have lasted since they've won the Grey Cup, the Argos have won 5 Grey Cups. As a Ticats fan, how should you feel about that? How should Ticats fans feel about that?
Well, I know how they feel because they've been telling me on the Fifth Quarter show on YouTube, and they're not feeling great at all. Listen, it's been 25 years since they last won. There's been so many head coaches, so many starting quarterbacks, so many players go in and out, so many front office changes, and we're going to have another one this offseason with Ed Hervey going to Edmonton, that fans are, I think, at the point of they're fed up. Like, they want to win a championship, and they haven't done so in a 9-team league for 25 years, and every other team has won at least once, and I think maybe twice in some cases, and in the Argos cases 5 times. So yeah, they're at the point of, okay, like, it's our time now, but there's work to do. Like, this team is not very close to Grey Cup contention. They need to make some changes.
They need to make some changes. They're going to have to make decisions as well. The stories coming out, Justin Dunk, John Hodge from 3 Down Nation, they were there in Vancouver as well. Of course, Bo Levi Mitchell looks really good on TV. And let me just say, it looks really good on TV, sounds really good on TV, and knows he has a career on TV that's there waiting for him when he's all done. But he said it. He's not going to play on this prove-it contract, is what he said. He is signed through 2025, so the Ticats will either have to give him a raise that he wants or go into a very contentious camp, and I don't think you want to start the year like that. What do they do with a Bo Levi Mitchell, an East nominee for most outstanding player?
Well, I think it goes both ways. Like, listen, Bo Levi had a bad season in 2023. He only played 6 games. It was injury-riddled. He just never got going. 2024, he was the best quarterback in the CFL, and he was, a few votes away from being most outstanding player. So he accepted the terms from the team to say, all right, we're going to put you on a prove-it contract. And boy, did he ever prove it. He played all day, 18 games, started 17 of them, was, again, the best quarterback on a team offensively that was up in the top 3 in many categories. I think he deserves to be paid among the elite quarterbacks in the CFL. I don't think he has to prove it anymore. He just did it.
He was also benched by his coach midseason.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and that was the thing. I remember going into camp that first day, and Bo wasn't there, right? Bo didn't practice the first 2 days of camp. He was in a walking boot. And I remember asking Scott Milanovich, what are your expectations for Taylor Powell? And he said, well, Taylor Powell is not a rookie anymore. This is a guy who has played games in this league. I'm not looking at him as a rookie. And I thought it was a pretty telling sign that he really wanted to see what Taylor Powell could do. But Bo barely gave him a chance, and when he did, he got hurt, and Taylor Powell never got back in. So if you're Scott Milanovich, you had your guy, which I think Taylor Powell was his guy. The limited action we saw from him, yes, he got hurt. Is he going to continue that going forward? I think it's pretty interesting. Like you said, there's a lot of things that need to be decided with this Ticats team. So what should fans hope for going into this offseason?
I think the expectation, and it's almost because of the way he played in 2024, is Bo's going to be QB1 going into camp. And then in training camp and the 2 preseason games and maybe even the first couple of games, he's got to prove that he's still got the magic from this 2024 season. I think the long-term play is Taylor Powell is probably the guy 5 years from now if he continues to progress and hits those markers when he is on the field. But if Bo plays like he did this year, next year, how can you take him off the field?
Or let him walk or trade him to a different team.
Yeah.
And he goes off and does what he does.
Exactly.
And, they win a couple more games. So the thing about the CFL, you've learned that the 9-9 Montreal Alouettes were Grey Cup champions. The Argos were the number 2 seed in the East, but still managed to get the job done. You just need to get to the playoffs. Like, it's been proven that you just need to, unless you're a crossover team, then you're screwed. Sorry. Yes. We were also talking about the age of the Grey Cup fans. Having just been in Vancouver, there was a pretty telling moment at the State of the League for the fans that Commissioner Ambrosi said, how many people is this your first Grey Cup? And out of the, let's say 100 people in the room, 5 people raised their hands.
Wow.
How many people is this your 5th Grey Cup? About 90% of the room raised their hand. 10th, about the same number stood up. And it is a gathering, it is a celebration, and they advertise it really well as Canada's biggest party, but it is an older crowd. You're a big football guy. You love your Dolphins. I'm sorry about that, but you love your Dolphins.
They're trending upwards.
Sure, okay, sure. As long as Tua stays upright. Yeah. How can the CFL, and it's going to be the question for the next commissioner, how can they attract a younger fan to this league? Because with all due respect to everybody I saw at the Grey Cup, it's an older league. And it's a dying league in a bit.
This is a twofold problem, and it's not just the next commissioner's issue. It has been an issue for decades now, how to attract a younger demographic to your games. They've done a better job of late, but there's so much room to grow, as you saw in the Grey Cup. And, the Grey Cup is a microcosm of CFL fandom. And I know a lot of CFL fans, whether you're a fan of the Ticats, the Argos, you name the team, a lot of people save money to go to that game. Because you're rekindling, friendships with friends from other cities, right? And that is, a great kind of melting pot for this league. But this league has to do a better job of attracting younger eyeballs to the product. And how do you do that? You make the games more exciting. You not only make the games more exciting, but you have to market the players much better. Because everywhere you seem to look, you see NFL players, NBA players, NHL players, MLB players. You don't see CFL guys anywhere. Or in enough places where younger eyeballs are. Another thing, too, I think the league has to do a better job of, partnering with U Sports, and even from the high school perspective, and getting the younger fan base out to games. How you do that economically is the big challenge.
Yeah. I don't envy the next commissioner. Any names that you'd throw out there? I know Mike Morreale is a great one.
Yeah.
I've been told that Mike Morreale will probably get an interview. Whether he gets the big-time job is another question. I've been told to look more at what the CPL did with theirs, where maybe it wasn't a well-known name for casual fans, and I couldn't even tell you the CPL commissioner is right now. But he was a guy with MLS experience and a guy really respected in the boardroom. So I'm going to say it's going to be a no-name, somebody we haven't, a name that's not familiar to casual football fans for the commissioner. Any guesses?
I'll throw out 2 names, Mike Morreale being one, because I think he's done a phenomenal job of taking this idea and making it pretty big in the CEBL, and has done a fantastic job of doing that. And there have been challenges for the league, but it continues to trudge on and is really gaining some traction. So good on Mike. I think he would be a phenomenal commissioner. He's played in the league, has this commissioner experience. It's a good business mind. It would be amazing. He might be a few years away from that post. The other one that I'm not necessarily hearing, but I've thought about this for several years now, is Scott Mitchell, who has a part ownership stake in the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and he would have to sell that, I'm sure, to be the commissioner of the league. But his dad was the commissioner. He's got a good sense of football, broadcasting, enterprise, business. I think he would be considered if he really wanted to do it. I'm not saying he's interested in or he's going for it, but I think that would be a pretty compelling person to look at.
I think Wade McNeil too would be in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I think he's the Booster Juice, the heir to the Booster Juice throne there.
Yeah. Whoever they get, they need someone to drive the business forward in terms of team evaluations, boosting revenues. That was one of the, quote unquote failures of Commissioner Randy Ambrosius. 2017, he came in and said, I want to double, team valuations or league revenues. And they didn't, obviously the pandemic got in the way. That really hurt, but they didn't really get there. And expansion obviously was the other big one too.
A lot of over promises I thought Randy Ambrosi did, right? CFL 2.0. Yeah. And he's very quick to, if you criticize CFL 2.0, he'll be very quick to pivot some of the players who have had success in the league because of the global program. And and I agree. I think the players you brought in, but he overpromised a lot. TV deals in Finland and Mexico and all these other things,
or games in other countries.
Games in other countries. Yeah,
I think who's going to a CFL game to see? And no disrespect to Nick Constantino or any of the other kickers from Australia, or it's quarterbacks, it's star receivers or running backs, it's uber defensive players who make amazing plays. Those are the players that the CFL has to market more.
I've hit my quota of sports talk for Newsmakers, so we'll have to. And that's kind of where I wanted to go though, because you're someone who's very passionate about news or sports, and you're also very passionate about news. How do you balance those two? Because I always find it difficult for me, especially having started as a weekend sports anchor, all my experience with the Ticats. I sometimes have trouble being a fan, especially now that I'm not really working in sports. And doing the serious news stuff. You've done it so well for so long. Thanks. How do you do that? How can you be a serious news person, but also be taken seriously in sports too? Yeah,
well, I got into journalism with the dream of I'm going to be the play-by-play announcer on Hockey Night in Canada. I wanted to be Bob Cole, right? I grew up watching, the Leafs play on Saturday night, and I wanted to be Bob, and I would emulate him. And I said if I had a dream job, that would be it. And so I got into the industry with that kind of in the back of my mind, and I just progressively, naturally got interested in news kind of stuff. What's happening in the community. And that's kind of rare for a 20-something-year-old to get interested in. Because more often than not, especially if you're a guy who's interested in sports, you want to know who scored all the goals and got all the assists, all that kind of, statistical analysis. But, why are my taxes going up, and who's responsible for fixing this road, and, how does council work? Really interested me. So I kind of dived into how life kind of works from a political perspective and a journalistic perspective, and really just was a sponge, asked a lot of questions, had some good mentors, and here I am.
Yeah, I mean, the news part of it, like you said, the asking questions, like that's what I do on the show. The whole show is just, and I tell everybody who comes in, it's just going to be a quick conversation. I don't want to trick you. I don't need a gotcha moment, because it's just genuine curiosity. Right, where did that start for you as a journalist? When did you realize you wanted to be Bob Cole, you wanted to do play-by-play? Yeah. But when did you really think, okay, my career is going to be a professional broadcaster? Was that something early on, or did something have to be worked into you?
I wouldn't necessarily say it started in college. I went to Fanshawe College, which was a phenomenal program back in the day, and we came in just as the digital age was kind of starting. So we were still working on reel-to-reels and the 8-track cart machines, and then all of second
Splicing.
year. Yeah, exactly. Like literally cutting tape with a razor blade. And then year two was, oh my gosh, like you don't have to cut anything to edit. You can just click a mouse. Like, this is amazing. But yeah, it was basically my first kind of part-time job in Chatham, where I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. Like, people are relying on me to give them the information that not only that they want, but that they need as well. Road closures, or school cancellations, or what's happening in their community. I thought, wow, this is a pretty big responsibility that they're relying on me to get the information right and timely and quick. And so that really kind of set the wheels in motion for me to say, I can make a career out of this. This is fun.
Did you ever have doubts on what you were doing?
No, not really. Maybe doubts in terms of, how many different ways can I tell this story and still make it interesting or informative or entertaining? Because there's so many ways to kind of, cut the pie of news. How do we cover this story? And then that's not necessarily the word doubt, but, how do we best cover this, whatever the crisis or the story is. And you can do it several different ways. Sometimes there's not a wrong answer, but sometimes there's a more effective answer in terms of, how do we cover this story?
I don't need to talk to you about the business that we're in today.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, you can tell me about it. Yeah. I've been laid off. I've been laid off from radio. I've had that conversation. I know you talked about your experience of walking into a room and seeing 3 people in front of you, and this person could tell you that.
Yeah.
It was always so cliche. Even in school, they told me, "Oh, you don't get your first job until you've been laid off."
Yeah.
That is still true, I would think, but the business has changed so much, even in my time in it. I've been here, I've been doing this about 10 years or so. How concerned are you about the future of this medium, but just local news in general?
It is quite concerning, really. I mean, we have had so many people lose their jobs, so many companies, swing the axe. They're looking at the bottom line, and right in many respects, rightfully so. They're not making, A equal B. Things from a revenue standpoint are really challenging. And, you can point to the explosion of social media, the Metas of the world, Google's, and grabbing those ad dollars, and they have, obviously. But I think it's also a challenge and an opportunity for this industry to think outside the box and try to find a new funding formula for ad revenue. And it's things like this, these unique podcasts that I think still have a place in our society, whether you're driving in your car or you're at home or you're in the workplace and you have, a spare time to listen to this kind of stuff. This is where I think local journalism, local news is going to live. Maybe not from here on in, because there's always going to be something else down the road. But in terms of still learning about what's happening in your community, I think it's places like CH, places like the podcast world that is going to allow residents to feel informed and entertained in some respects.
So I always thought, and I maybe my NDA is still in effect, but I always thought Bell Media Rogers effectively killed local news. That's just my perspective, just in the sense that I don't blame them completely. I look at the CRTC and what they allowed, and
sure.
I never thought a billion-dollar company should be responsible for a radio station in St. Catharines that's providing 100 and whatever.
Yeah.
Are they too big now? Are we beyond fixing when it comes to radio? Like how can we fix?
Yeah, I think
radio?
What Bell and Rogers did basically was they bought up a bunch of stations, they syndicated a bunch of stations, for lack of a better term, and they kind of lost their flag in the sand kind of local identity. And so people turned away and advertisers turned away because they weren't getting the same thing that they did previous. And I think it's incumbent on the independents, those radio or TV medium lovers, to start up these kind of entities where they're focused on local, they're selling local, and they don't care about anything else because they want to feed the consumer that wants this local information. And at the end of the day, people in the community right now are worse off because they don't have a place to turn to 100%. Find out what's going on. And you're going to see, and we're already seeing it now, institutions or organizations taking it upon themselves to tell their story. And without news organizations, journalists asking the tough questions to uncover what might be the real story behind whatever an organization is announcing, the listener, the viewer, the reader is going to be shortchanged.
The way social media is exploding, we've talked about that. I think there was a survey done in the States post-election that said about 40% of the population, split evenly, Democrats, Republicans, got their news primarily from social media. To your point, I think there is something there. People need to be informed. Do you believe that there's a future in radio news in this country, or is it too far?
I think there's a future. I don't think it looks the way it does now, and I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but I think it's going to be more niche, and it might be more on demand. You might have to subscribe to local station X that has more of a regional approach because, running a news talk radio station, especially just like a news TV organization, it's pretty expensive because you need people in multiple places. You need anchors, you need reporters, you need producers, you need people on the back end, you need the people that make us look good or sound good. It's a quite costly venture. And so I think there's a place for it. Again, back to the formula. There's going to be a person much smarter than me who kind of figures out how to do it.
Could be you.
Well, I don't know.
Come on, Rick.
I kind of have the light bulb. We need some action in that regard.
Yeah.
And I think it might be a company or organization that says, listen, we're going to start small and then we're going to grow slowly and we're going to do it right.
So does it concern you though? Facebook won't allow us to post our own news. Meta will blame the Canadian government, Bill C-19, or I think it's still C-19. Yeah. They'll blame us, the news organizations or the government. But fake news can be posted on Facebook without a problem.
All the time.
Fake news can be now promoted on X or Twitter. YouTube algorithms that once you watch one video, they tell you. And when we're talking about producers, editors, reporters, fact checkers, all of these things that traditional media has had that, these things in place to make sure that the most correct information is getting out. Yeah. That's not happening now. People are turning on their laptop. They're talking to a camera like this. Mm-hmm. They're going on a 30-minute rant and hitting post. Yeah. And people are watching those videos in full, and that's how they're being shaped. Yeah. That's terrifying to me.
Scary.
How do we fight that?
Yeah.
Misinformation, because that seems to be where we're heading, is that most people get their news from YouTube. There's not a whole vetting process when something's posted on YouTube. There's none at all.
You can write, you can video, you can do whatever and say whatever you want, and if someone believes it, they're going to believe it. Doesn't necessarily make it true. Most of the stuff you read online and social is garbage, false, misinformation, disinformation. It's tailor-made to turn your attention to a particular viewpoint. And as you mentioned, there's no fact-checking. There's no, there's people on social that say, calling whatever, issue or statement out, but the damage is already done. It's been viewed by who knows how many people. And so that's a huge problem, because there are so many people, even people in my circle, who say, hey, do you hear about the thing? And I'm like, no, that's not true. Like, do your research. And I think this is where the demise of news organizations is really going to have an impact, because people just believe whatever they read or hear. And it was up to people like me, and certainly you in this capacity, to tell the real story and tell people what's really going on. And if it comes from a credible source like CH, it's going to be true.
You say that, credible source CH. I believe that. We all believe what we do here. There are going to be people very quickly online who watch this video who say, you are Trudeau bot, you are fake news, you are, you're CBC light, all these things that I just don't know how to get to that person. And I don't want to say it's not worth it to try but there's a part of me where every time somebody is just like, you're fake news, you're bought for, like, there's a part of me that just my news heart dies a little, I don't know how to reach out to that person or even if their mind can be changed.
Here's what I've gotten those emails, I've gotten those messages on social, you're bought, and when's the Trudeau check coming in the mail? And I can wholeheartedly say I've never once received any payment from any level of government. I've never once been in a team management meeting with company presidents, VPs, direct managers who have ever said, this is the way we're covering the story. Not once. And it's not like that. You go into the CBC, CTV, CH Newsroom, CHML back in the day, it was a hearty conversation on how are we going to cover this story from a very local level. And then we went and covered it. There was no kind of overarching, this is the way we're going to do it because we're getting paid by the government. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't.
And if it did, we would all walk out the door because we didn't get into the business to do that.
Integrity matters, despite what people have told me, not to my face, well, every once in a while. But multiple emails, especially the anonymous ones, are always the fun ones to get. Let's talk a little local, because this month, this year, marks about the halfway point of this Hamilton Council's term.
Okay.
So they were elected 2 years ago. They're going to have to run for the re-election in less than 2 years. For a council that was so different, and 10 out of the 15 chairs around the horseshoe had new people sitting in them, I really thought, and maybe it's on me for thinking like this, but I really thought maybe more change would happen. I can't look at one crowning moment from this council to say, look at what they've done. Disappointment, I don't know is the right word, but what do you make of the first half of this term of council?
So the previous election was certainly a change election, right? There was a number, as you stated, there was a number of councillors who changed. Some did not rerun. Others were, defeated at the polls. And so I think there was a sense in the community that, okay, things are going to be different. Because for a long time, because there were so many councillors that were in their post for so long, it was kind of the status quo. New council comes in, and I think there's going to be two legacies of this current kind of crop of council. Number one is that taxes have gone up so high. And I know they're all going to say, well, listen, it's because back in the day, they were always at 0% or 1% or 2%. They should have risen them a little bit more. And they'll also say the pandemic certainly, kind of handcuffed them, and that is certainly true. The other thing, too, is the homeless tent encampment issue, protocol and whatnot. I think that has been, for this council, one of the most challenging things, aside from the economics of what we're dealing with high inflation and property tax rates and a lack of affordable housing, which kind of plays into the homelessness. But it has been, I think, the overarching big enemy of this council is that they haven't been able to solve it. And guess what? It's not going to be solved in the next election either. This is a huge, complex issue.
And it's not just a Hamilton problem either.
It's not just a Hamilton. It's a worldwide problem, really. Yeah. But in this part of the world, London, Toronto, KW, Hamilton, you name the community, they're dealing with it.
Province is trying to do what they can. The federal government's trying to do what they can. Let's move on to the province, because it seems very, very likely within the next 6 months, based on all the emails we're seeing, is that Ontarians will head to the polls. Mm-hmm. They're hiring election workers. There's campaign ads running. Yep. Doug Ford's given us a $200 check that I'm sure people will be happy to have. Is the province ready for an election?
In terms of the people?
Is the people of the province ready for an election?
I don't think so. No. I mean, there's not a real groundswell of, things have to change and, we want a different voice at Queen's Park. I think they're relatively happy with the Ford government, and we're seeing that in the polling. We're seeing that, obviously, in the last couple of elections. The Ford Conservatives have a good thing going in terms of their populist kind of, programs. The $200 check is, a great example of it. In 4 or 5 years from now, that might be a different story. But, they're looking at, the Conservatives they're looking at what's happening in the U.S., they're looking at what's happening in Ottawa, which could have a federal election at any point, and they're saying now is the time for us to guarantee ourselves another 4 or 5 years. Let's do it now. Earlier, the better.
And well, the anti-incumbency has been a common theme globally, mm-hmm. and you can see that, like I said, across the world. Ford seems to be bucking that trend.
Yeah.
So whatever you think about him as a guy, as a politician, how he's running the province, mm-hmm. he's doing something right. And I would say, A, he's keeping all his MPPs on message.
Right.
Almost to a fault, in which everyone is copy and pasting the same message. He is controlling the message. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you understand how difficult it is to get any conservative member of provincial parliament. I've never had one on this show, despite repeated asks right. for a conservative MPP to be on this show has just never happened, because they are very controlling of the message.
Yeah.
You email the Premier's office, he's not available, here's a response. You got to give him credit for doing something right, but he's got 40% of the support of the province. Mm-hmm. There's probably 50, 60% who oppose him, yet he's still going to be on his way to a majority government.
Yeah, because that 50, 60% are really fractured, right? They're either NDP Liberal or maybe even something else, or just not voting at all, mm-hmm. right? So if you have a good 35, 40% chunk of literally the 30% of voters are going to cast a ballot in the provincial election, maybe 40 some odd percent. It's a pretty good head start. Financially, they're in wonderful shape as well. The Liberals and the NDP really have to play catch up in terms of generating, fund for the next election. So I really don't see an appetite for change from the voting public, and I don't think there will be a change. There might be a couple of MPPs here mm-hmm. and there that get swapped out, but another Ford majority probably, or maybe a slim minority, is going to win the day.
I was about to say, and the appetite for change isn't there. Despite the fact there's an election scheduled in 2026, mm-hmm. despite the fact they have a majority, pretty solid majority.
Yeah.
I just don't think, shouldn't that bite them in the butt? Like, shouldn't it bite them in the ass that we don't need this election? Yeah. We're just going to do it anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not going to blame. I mean, the Conservatives will paint it as, we need the mandate now because we want to do X, Y, and Z, and whatever that is. Build more homes, which they're
tunnel under the 400.
Tunnel under the yeah, I mean, there's going to be a litany of line items that they say, we want to get this done. We need the support of Ontarians to do it. And the Liberals and the NDP will obviously batter back on that. The other thing to consider is, from a federal standpoint, you have Trump, who's a populist in the U.S., we're soon going to have Pierre Poilievre, who is going to be a populist prime minister in Canada, and sometime, probably in the next 6 to 12 to 18 months, whenever the federal Liberals finally crack. I think now is the time for another populist leader to say, all right, let's get in while the getting's good.
You've interviewed Justin Trudeau. He's been prime minister now. I think it's the 4th longest serving prime minister of all time. It is a general assumption that Pierre Poilievre will be the next prime minister of Canada. And I think polling suggests that. I think based on what we've seen globally in terms of changes in the last few years to incumbent governments, why is he going to suffer through this? Is he not just going to set the party back like Kathleen Wynne set back the Liberals for?
So you're suggesting he stepped down?
I'm suggesting somebody else take the blame. Like, why would he even why does he want the job? Why do you think he wants the job at this point?
I think part of it's ego. Yeah. Right? You don't get to that place without having some sort of, something in the back of your mind to say, I want to do this and I'm going to do it my way and I'm going to do it right and then we're going to be better for it. And I think part of it too is maybe he really thinks that he is the best person for the job and leading the Liberals into the election. Because if he steps down, who is it going to be? Christopher Phelan? Is it going to be someone else? And he's probably thinking, well, they're going to do even worse. Like, at least I have some cachet with the Canadian people. Yes, everyone hates me, but he never will admit that. Yeah. He's got some tough sledding. And I think it's going to be very similar to what Kathleen Wynne and even Kim Campbell back in the day with the federal Conservatives. They're probably going to get decimated. And they'll have to restart from scratch.
There's about 6 cars I pass on my drive from Hamilton to St. Catharines every day that suggest differently that people don't hate Trudeau.
Really?
Yeah, they're very passionate about their hate, and like I've always said, I wish I cared about anything as much as people care about putting an F Trudeau bumper sticker on their car. To each their own. They're not watching this anyway, so I wish you were. You would have heard a really great conversation. Before I let you go, let's finish back with sports. We mentioned the Ed Hervey. He was the top guy. Ticats have had 2 guys in those roles for a very long time, and Drew Alamang and Spencer Zimmerman, that assistant GM. I don't think it's going to be one of them. How do you see that front office looking in the next few weeks?
I don't know how it's going to go, but I'll tell you how it should go. And I'm not sure if I'll be right, but I hope I am. There are 2 gentlemen who are kind of been tied at the hip, and they have been very successful in the Canadian Football League. And sources have told me that they are extremely interested to come here and make the Tiger Cats into a Grey Cup contender, a perennial Grey Cup contender again. And that's Danny McManus and Ted Govea in Winnipeg. Ted Govea is a Burlington guy. He recently bought a house in Hamilton. He wants to be the Ticats GM. Dan McManus, former Ticats front office guy, U.S. scout, he would love to have that job with the Tiger Cats. I think if Hamilton decided, if Bob Young and Scott Mitchell and Matt Afanek and Orlando Steinauer, if he's still with the team, say, let's bring in these 2 guys, I think this could be a monumental shift in the trajectory of this organization because the proof is in the pudding. They have been successful. Yeah. Especially in Winnipeg. And Danny Mac was really successful here in Hamilton before being the assistant GM with the Bombers. So that's how I think it should play out. How it will probably play out, probably not to that degree. Whether it's Vince Magri with the Bills, former Argos guy, Chris Rossetti with the Giants, I've heard could be a candidate. I think the Ticats front office, from what I'm hearing, wants to hit a bit of a home run with some, high-profile individual who has been successful. But if it were me, if I were running the organization, Govea and McManus are my 1A and 1B.
I did run into Danny Mac at the Grey Cup in Vancouver, and I was thinking the exact same thing. I think you throw him a nice little title, President of Football Ops. I will say he very much enjoys his life in Florida, from what I hear.
Yeah, and I think he would just stay there anyways.
Yeah, and we know Scott Milanovich before he became head coach here full-time as an offensive advisor, I believe his title was. Yep. I just think, like, this turnover's gotta stop, right? I mean, Kent Austin had success as a coach. Yeah. As a front office, Orlando did too. But again, I think our friend Scott Radley put it pretty well. I think he called it embarrassing. I'm not going to use those words. I'm not going to use those words that people like Bob Young and Scott Mitchell should be embarrassed. Again, his words, not mine. Yeah. But I know, like, as you do, fans are getting frustrated. Yeah. I will save more sports talks for your next appearance on Sportsline. Again, try not to step on too many toes here. And if that election happens in the next few months, can I bring you back on?
Absolutely. I'd love to talk about it.
If I have a little panel show,
I'm in.
Okay, you're in. Okay, you heard it here. We're locked in. Rick, thanks for doing this, man.
You got it. Anytime.
All right, my thanks to Rick Zamperin for joining me today, and my thanks to you as well. And hey, while you're here, why don't you like and subscribe to see CHCH Podcast. You never miss an episode of this show or any of those other great shows we have for you, including Sportsline with Bubba O'Neill that I mentioned. So you can find that at chch.com/podcast, or you can scan the QR code on your screen if you are watching this right now. I want to thank Kyle Miller for directing today's episode. And one more time, thank you for tuning in from all of us here at CHCH. I'm Louie Butko. Have a great day.